4, 3, 2, rewind.
Rise of the Fallen, MMO Quest, Pantheon. Once again, time to pledge. Very excited. We're here to talk. Let's get this party to
share your thoughts.
Co-host Derek.
Weekly Adventures, co-host Desiree. We're almost professional.
Full disclosure.
Dangerous combination. Creating content and optimizations. We've got a lore video coming. Cannot wait, which is all about drone fast and some sort of cake. Mail on a Sunday.
News and notes.
Schedule for this week.
Hot cocoa. All these people.
Supports the show. Adventuring party.
You ready? Let's go.
Let me take a deep breath. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 144 of the Pantheon Plus Rewind. If you're looking to stay up to date on the development of Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, a classically spirited MMO in production by Visionary Realms, you've certainly come to the right place. We are a fan community that keeps our eyes and ears on VR and brings you all the sights and sounds that you need. This week, we've got a lot of ground to cover. We'll be recapping VR's most recent live stream all about the mastery system in Pantheon, breaking down the April producer's letter, and as always, showcasing fan fiction and community content. So settle into your comfy couch and put your phone on Do Not Disturb for about an hour and a half or so. Join me, Theric, and my co-host, Captain Desrin, for this week's Rewind. All right, Desrin, I promise no more sports talk. Sports is on the menu for later tonight after we're done recording, but for now, no sports talk. I'm sure you're good with that, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, times two, thank you for reminding me to put my phone on Do Not Disturb while we record too. So, double whammy there.
I had to do that too, actually. As I was reading it before we started recording, I'm like, I should actually put my phone on focus mode. So
very nice.
It would have been funny if we should have texted each other while I was saying that. It would have been funny.
Oh my gosh.
Pop-up sound.
Missed opportunity.
Oh, wow. Missed opportunity. Hey, you know what? You know who's not missing out on any opportunities? It's our adventuring party. And this week, we're back with another strong party. We got Daimlos on the Darkmer Bard, Breakout on the Archive Shaman, Grogu on the Human Warrior, Anton on the Darkmer Shaman Glyph Keeper, Ziplocs on the Darkmer Rogue, Sparrow on the Elf Ranger, Bounty Code on the Human Wizard, Screech on the Scar Bard, Wiki Woo on the Human Enchanter, Shuriken on the Dwarf Cleric, Horsasaurus on the Human Warrior, Fury Wrath on the Archive Summoner, Churro Dude on the Halfling Direlord, Galarain Moonsong on the Elf Ranger, Annoying Llama on the Human Monk, and Stands in the Fire on the Darkmer Cleric. All right, so if you want to hear your name on that list, you can head over to the Patreon campaign. The link to that is in the description of the video. If you want to just leave a super chat or a super thanks during the premiere, that'll also get you into the adventuring party and have your name on that nice scrolling banner that goes across the screen during the main part of the show. And as always, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate your support. It's awesome to have that support each and every time we record and to have you all here for the show. And we have a huge show, and I'm just waiting around to get started. So, Desiree, what do you say?
Absolutely massive. Ready to roll? So, yeah, we really need to.
Let's do it. This week in Visionary Realms News and Notes. All right, so no time to waste. Let's dive right into our first news item this week, and that being Parting the Veil, the episode VR put out on April 20th, which focused on what's known as the mastery system that they have planned. And we got Chris Joppa Perkins sharing where that system is at. And if you don't know the basics of it, Joppa summed it up pretty concisely. He said it's their form of alternative advancement in Pantheon. And we know that AA systems from other MMOs, basically it's a way of modifying and shaping your character in a way that, sort of makes you unique and helps you, feel progression and feel like you're getting stronger as you go through your journey with your character. Joppa depicted it very well, saying it's a way of unlocking your full potential in Pantheon. So that's what the mastery system is, right? And he went through and talked about where it's at right now and how you achieve that, how you get mastery points, which are the currency that fuels your progression. So he said that there's 4 ways. Firstly is by leveling up. And the first one you get at level 2. And he said as well, any experience you gain contributes to a separate mastery bar. And he said it's a flat amount. So what that means is basically it's not like experience where the number is variable based on the mob and based on who's in your group kind of thing. It's a flat number. So for example, each kill is 1 point and there's 100 points on the bar. So he just used that as sort of a paradigm, not exact numbers, right, Des?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. I really want to see how this pans out because immediately in chat, everyone was like, oh, so we're going to like power farm, low cons to get our mastery. And I don't know if that's the case or if that's like intended, maybe it would technically mean if you soloed a lot, you would be ahead on mastery.
It's a strange system that seems on its face to be like, oh, okay, I understand that. But then you think about like what you're saying, right? Like if it's just killing, you just get one per kill, it seems like it could be exploited pretty easily.
People would probably, anyone up for a group for mastery farming, right? Like, so we'll see how that plays out. But that's a curious one for sure.
Mm-hmm. The other ones are quest rewards. You get mastery points from that. And this is my favorite one. You get them from extremely rare world drops. You get a mastery shard. And he said it takes 4 mastery shards to create 1 mastery crystal, which is equal to 1 point. The best part about it, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but those can be sold and traded, those shards and crystals from what I
ding,
understood.
ding, ding,
anyway. Yeah.
Immediate Drac ears suddenly on everything. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very like valuable. And if they're really rare, I mean, that's even better, right? So they sort of defined how you get the mastery points those ways. And then, what do you do with mastery points? How do they work? And they talked about basically focused on class ability enhancements at this point. Joppa said every single ability has mastery upgrades available to it. And they are varied. The effects are varied. It could be a mana cost reduction. It could be damage boosts. It could be a lot of different things. But he did specify that the final upgrade is going to be more diverse in the impact that it has. So you can expect, sort of that unique element once you get to the highest tier of mastery to have a really, really unique,
like really affect the ability, like
fundamentally change it in some way.
I wouldn't say fundamentally change it. Actually, I think the goal isn't to fundamentally change it, but it's to enhance what it already does in a really meaningful way. Because remember, like Joppa, I think he specifically said they don't want to like change the ability, but it's more of a linear like progression, right?
Right, and I think the idea, at least the way I heard it, was like because this is the top of the line, they want it to feel special, right? They want it to feel
totally.
More than just an incremental upgrade,
right?
So they gave lots of examples of the class ability upgrades, and I don't think we'll go into super detail about each one because we'd just basically be repeating what they said. And I know you want to. Maybe we can.
I want to. I think it's short enough. We could breeze through it.
Okay, sure, we can do that. That's fine. Honestly, the other factor too is that these are probably going to change over time. So it's just sort of like for funsies, right? But we'll do it anyway. So the rogue gets backstab upgrades through their mastery upgrades, mastery points. That's basically improvements to their damage with the backstab, the cooldown on it. And it also, like you said here in your notes, refreshes. You explain it. I didn't really understand this one. Maybe you go for it.
So this one, the rogue also has an ability, a blackjack kick. And if you use backstab when you have the mastery point in this, if you use backstab while a target's vulnerable, it immediately refreshes blackjack kick, which is a pretty fundamental rogue thing. So,
right. So you can sort of start getting close to chaining it almost as much as you can.
Combo.
Yeah. The next one was the Dire Lord, and they focused on provoking Phantom's ability. This basically gives you an upgrade to the cooldown on it. It increases the initial threat that it generates, and the auto attacks now increase the stacks of provoking Phantoms. This is an ability we saw a lot of, right? In the recent streams. So, an important one. The next one's the cleric ability called Ward on Death. It's a direct damage spell that works on undead only. It basically the mastery points give you increased damage on it. The second net mastery point causes a snare effect to happen, and the third one causes weakness to the creature. Right, that's what you heard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Enchanter, my favorite class right now, they talked about Mez being affected. Firstly, it's a mana cost reduction, and then the second one is a duration increase on the Mez, and then a reduction in that upkeep cost that we've talked about before, where the more targets you have Mez, the quicker it drains your mana sort of thing. And then the shaman, they talked about Mantle of Mist being affected by increased healing. Now, this was kind of interesting because the first 2 mastery increases were actually both just increased healing, right?
Straight power increase, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the third one actually is pretty cool because each healing tick gives you a chance to proc a spell called Surging Power, which gives your next cast no mana cost, right?
Which is pretty huge.
Pretty huge. Yeah, I think I could see that being readily utilized by a lot of people. The monk, they talked about Feign Death. Feign Death gets a cooldown reduction with the first one, reduces the chance that mobs actually see through it on the second one. And the third upgrade allows you to be resting, go into a resting state while you're feigned death. So
that sounds so OP. Like, I know we already like chatted about it on like the plus E2 and stuff, but being able to rest while you're feigned death, it sounds like a cheat code.
Yeah, I mean, everything is subject to change, right? And that's why I think some of these are kind of interesting. That they're enticing and they're interesting to hear, and you're sort of enticed by them. But certainly they're going to change. The wizard gets the fireball is the choice that they used to illustrate the mastery upgrades for the wizard. So the fireball gets a reduced mana cost and then increased burn damage and knocking enemies into the off balance state at its highest tier. So interesting stuff. One point that I thought was really interesting here and that they made about masteries is that they are going to be shared between spells with their higher tier versions, right?
Yeah, dude, thank God. Like, I was concerned about this because, well, you're leading into it.
Right. I mean, previously, basically, VR didn't support downranking. So they didn't want people putting various levels of the same spell on their bars. They wanted the old ones to basically just be replaced automatically with the better version. But Joppa said they've changed their approach. They've decided to do it a different way. You can now do this. You can put different lower versions of your spell on the bar. And any mastery points put into a line of spells will be applied to all later versions. So I don't know, man. We've talked about downranking before. I don't really have an opinion about it. I mean, I've never felt very strongly one way or another, but the way that they're doing it now, at least this is more friendly to the player in that you won't have to get so many mastery points to upgrade everything should you want to use the lower version of a spell, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I'm getting out of it. But in the end, I'm still not for downranking. Mm-hmm. I think it's just going to complicate balance, like, a lot. Yeah. Again, because, I really want them to do like a mentoring thing. And then you have to think, oh, well, if we do mentoring, now we have to balance it around not only the scaling back of one ability, but like, potentially everything. 5 or more versions of an ability. Like, so I'm a little disappointed in that, but well,
it seems like
we'll see how it plays out.
It does create more work for them too, like you're saying, and again, small team, but maybe they didn't really talk about why they decided to do it this way. It wasn't really discussed why downranking was now okay again.
Wasn't like the focus of of it. So I understand, but it would be nice to circle back to it at some point. For sure.
One important point about mastery that they made is that each upgrade has an increasing cost. So the first one will cost 1 point per, as example, the second upgrade costs more, and then the third one costs the most. So it's not like 1, 1, 1. There's an increasing cost.
Right.
And you do have to do them sequentially, right? Which makes sense, of course.
Yep, linear.
Yeah, so Joppa noted that this is actually a change to how it was previously designed. So again, a new approach to this that they're taking. And in hearing them talk about it, it really got me thinking that perhaps the mastery system is further along, than we think it is, than we generally have thought of. We haven't seen it in so long, right? So,
well, I mean, as we'll, spoiler alert, right? But we'll get to in the roadmap, and they said it on the Parting the Veil, like it's in the game.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. And the UI has been there before. Like you've seen the UI with the mastery tab and all that stuff there, but it just hasn't been functional. So yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see it in the next test. just takeaways from this overall does. I really liked, like I said, how the mastery shards are extremely rare and tradable and sellable. I think that's really, really important. There's a real synergy between how powerful these are and their rarity. And Joppa touched on it a little bit when he said the game loop that they want that's what they're going for here. And what they've targeted, in my opinion, is probably what people crave in MMOs, right? The feeling of being rewarded with extreme value for your efforts. So, if you're just randomly in a group and you're, in a dungeon and not doing anything and you happen to get a mastery shard drop, I mean, that's awesome.
Exciting. Yeah.
Super
big
good.
Deal.
And you can convert that. If you don't need it or you don't want it, you can convert that from either a power of self-improvement or into wealth. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think that is really, really enticing. And they got to keep it rare, of course, but I love that aspect. What's your overall takeaway from some of the stuff they talked about?
Oh man. Well, real quick before that, let's maybe do rapid fire notes on other little things they touched on.
Okay.
And I'll give a few thoughts at the end. But so as far as like power level, like mastery's, contribution to your character's power, he said it's pretty significant. Like mastery is a pretty big deal for your character progression. He didn't put it in comparison to anything like, level or whatever, but it's a big part of your character's progression. So plan on engaging with it fully. The other thing they were more vague on, overall, like, a lot of info here, but they talked about masteries outside of your class abilities as well, which I think they called general masteries. And they mentioned a few things those could do, including helping with crafting and gathering,
right.
Which again, vague, but
yeah, well, master crafter. Who wants to be a master crafter?
True.
Everybody does, right?
True. And we did talk about that a bit on the Plus U2, the idea of being able to devote all of your resources to crafting, gathering as a character, because you start this at level 1, right? Yeah. Some people really like just having, I don't even want to say a crafting alt, but their character, everything goes towards the non-combat stuff, and so I really like that. But they also mentioned it might increase your base endurance pool, your base resistances, probably more. And the other thing, they didn't exactly say how like these were separated out or not, or like we'll have to come back to this at some point, I think. Right. But really exciting to hear of another mode of non-combat stuff.
It really is exciting, and it makes me wonder again, how do you gain those mastery points if you are not a combat, like if you're just a crafter gatherer, right? Like,
hey, quests. I'm sure. I know Nefel has talked about, possibilities for crafters, and we're getting kind of off but like for crafters, a lot of their progression is going to be faction based, right? And I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of things for those factions, whether they're, just regular tasks or, full on crafting quests. They'll be getting mastery for doing that stuff. So I think it's a valid alternative mode of playing the game. And it's really cool.
Yeah, I like the fact that you can increase your endurance pool. I think that's awesome. That speaks to even another sphere, right? Because that's the explorers, the scouts, the people who just want to travel and see the world, right? And I mean, that might not be the majority of people, but that's still that's part of your population, and it gives you a sphere to progress in that area too.
Yep, 100%. And I wouldn't say it goes without saying, but it's good that they did say this, was that you can reset your mastery. Yeah. And they've kind of made it funny because they're like, you can reset your mastery with an in-game cost. Yeah. It's very, because you have to say that.
You do have to say that these days. Yeah, right. In-game.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be free for early testing, just to streamline that. But and they did also mention that the cost does go up each time you do it. So I don't think it's meant to be something that you can constantly respec. like some games have adopted where you kind of like flip flop depending.
Yeah, and that's consistent with what they've said before about
right,
things like this. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, okay, I'm pretty floored. I mean, obviously, I'm not super big fan of them kind of digging their heels in on down ranking, but at least mastery applies to that in a way that makes sense. But anyway, I think the way that they explained the whole system and even had like additional questions about it, it was great. And my favorite thing is that they did this whole parting the veil, which people always like, mock for being like, oh, they're just talking heads, talking ideas and stuff. And then, near the end, they're just like, oh yeah, it's in the game, by the way.
Yeah. And that was really good. Yeah. Really, really like it changed the whole tone of the whole thing,
Yeah. So that was super well executed. And like, I've got really high praise for this parting the veil. And I think we communicated that on the Plus U2 stream quite a bit. So, if you want to go really in depth on this with Man of Rohan, Redbeard Flynn, myself, that's up on the Pantheon Plus channel. But it was a great stream, man. I think it might be my favorite parting the veil so far.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you. It really, I was listening very closely to this one, and I look forward to more ones that are more grounded in like something that's happening on the horizon. It's imminent, as we might say. Yeah. So that was good. And go check out Plus U2 if you want to hear that conversation in a greater detail. Let's move on to the producer's letter, which came out on April 27th. And this one, as we might expect, was brief and to the point. I have no problem with that, right?
Yeah. Well, like they said, they did communicate ahead of time. They're spreading out the newsletter content now. And so we can expect like producer's letter, roadmap update, and then the rest of the stuff kind of distributed. And I really I almost didn't catch this, but if you are on the producer's letters page and you see the top right, where I think it used to have like the chapters of it, it's actually the monthly recap now, which I think I prefer so much more because it didn't really need to be its whole like own article, I don't think, before. And so this is just like a really quick way if you for people that only look at the newsletter, which they exist, guys. But it's like quick links to like other, stuff that happened through the month for quick reference. I really well done.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So good layout on that. So let's look at the producer's letter then. Firstly, they talked about how they're continuing to grow their staffing complement. They have new job postings on their corporate page under the career section. VR said they're finalizing the filling of the character artist position, and they are now looking for an animator and rigger, with a note that more positions are going to be posted pretty soon. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you might be thinking animator and rigger. Don't they already have one? It does look like Ross Armstrong, who's been with the project for longer than I have, I think, is finally kind of moving on. So again, don't want to make a big deal out of it or anything. It happens. Like I said, he's been with them for a long time. So, a lot of love to him, all he's done for the project. I really hope he finds himself well, wherever he's going. But
absolutely.
But yeah, so they're opening up a new position for that.
Yeah, no, and that's a great catch on your part. I was looking at the list myself. If you look at it right now, under the art and animation section, there are currently 9 people listed. So adding 2 will have them, we'll turn it up to 11, I guess you might say. They were pretty blunt in the newsletter, actually stating, I like the honest here, and they said, quote, we do have a way to go yet before we reach alpha, and much of the work ahead lies in world building and art, end quote. And they, of course, followed this up with a call for pledges to support hiring more staff if they want to get it done. And we've both said this before, growth is a good sign. And if they want, if there's more people on the project, it'll get done faster. So good stuff and good to see. And not much more to hear from me. Not much more I want to say here, Des. Anything else on this part of it?
No, but I'm really glad you pointed out that little quote about like just being real about alpha.
Yeah, which is
like
it's refreshing because sometimes there's been times where they've alluded to alpha being like right around the corner.
Yep.
Multiple times. So.
Yeah, I don't want to make a big deal about it, but it's worth calling out this grounded, straightforward approach. So we gotta praise it. And I love that they laid out kind of what's on the horizon as well, which is like we're getting mechanics. Mechanics are coming. Like mechanics are really coming. It's totally opposite. I mean, we've said this so many times, but it's totally opposite from other projects, right? And in the sense of, in a lot of ways, the mechanics are ahead of of where the art is.
And that's That's a great point, and we're going to talk about that a little later because the streams that we've seen recently and participated in, we do get comments on our channel that like it's a lot of how this looks terrible, or wow, this looks like they've gone backwards. And it's like, once you understand mechanics and underlying stuff first, then fancy prettiness, you'll be okay.
Right.
Right. But people don't understand that generally. So let's look at the calendar. The May calendar for the development updates for VR came out with the producer's letter. And we're going to run through these dates for you here. So May 4th, may the 4th be with you. The VIP only Bring Out Your Devs production goes up. They're talking to the marketing and public relations team on May 4th. Developer live stream is on May 11th, and looks like they're going to talk about the shaman class. So Desrin,
shaman's getting a lot of love lately. Holy cow!
Yeah, get some updates on your favorite class so far.
Yeah, my favorite currently implemented class.
We're both in the same boat. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, actually, I shouldn't even say favorite. That was a misnomer. But the one that I always play. How about
the one that you've tied your wagon to for now?
Yes.
Gotcha. Actually on that subject, if you didn't see it, the official website has the class page for the Dire Lord has actually been refreshed. It got refreshed earlier this month with the new abilities that they showed from the Dire Lord update in April. And it's a small thing. I think it's not a massive thing, but I do think it's appreciated by those people looking at the game for the first time. Maybe they saw the Dire Lord stream and they're like, oh, okay, good. Now these match, so it makes sense, right?
Yeah, so, we've been saying it for a while, but like they really, really need to update the website. Like the amount of people that like go to the website first is not insignificant, and it needs to be updated. And I know they don't have a lot of people for it or anything, but it's such a high priority. So it's great to see them doing something. Right.
So the next pre-alpha test session is scheduled for May 13th to 14th from 10 a.m. Pacific on Saturday to 10 a.m. Pacific on Sunday. Now, we need to circle back to Parting the Veil for a second here, because there were major beans from that production that make this test way more interesting. We talked about one already, that being the mastery system is going to be active in this May pre-alpha test. Not the full extent, not the full path of mastery abilities, but there are as many as possible, they said. What wasn't said, and I kind of wondered about this, if all the methods we mentioned of obtaining mastery points are in. What did you glean from that? Because it's easy to assume like they would be, but I kind of wonder if it's putting points in, or if there's like, can you get them from the drops? Can you get them from that static or that flat mastery bar? Like,
I mean, we kind of have to rig up our ship and sail out onto Speculation Sea here a little bit, but
a little bit, right? Experience has taught me to be skeptical, but I'm hoping not. Maybe I'm wrong.
I wouldn't be surprised if every method was not in, and so that's where I'm going to set my expectations.
There you go. That makes sense.
But yeah, I know one thing that I can't say, which influences my speculation, so I'm just gonna move on. But
leave it at that. Yeah,
we'll see how it plays out. But that's a great point.
Yeah. So the other thing for the pre-alpha test in May that's happening is Joppa noted there's some tweaks to the wizard class. This will interest Drac, especially because he talks about it in some of the videos he's made with the content that we've had about the focus building system, or the pies as he calls them, which basically
Too much Trivial Pursuit.
It really does. It makes me think of Trivial Pursuit 100%. Basically, these are the stacks that build up as you continue to cast spells in the same school or the same line. Joppa said that once you get past 5 stacks, which is the full sort of pie, you actually just continue to get further benefits. He listed some of them just sort of like off the cuff, but one of the parts that came along with that, he just sort of casually dropped, is that, oh yeah, spell crits are back in the game. So
crits are back on the menu, boys.
That's right. Man,
my favorite chat comment.
And this is a funny conversation because it's something that people felt really strongly about, one way or the other. Nobody was sort of on the fence about it. People either loved it or they hated it. And so there'll be a lot of happy campers and sad campers, perhaps, as a result of this news. For you monk testers out there, Feign Death is going to be in. Feign Death, as Minus likes to joke, which he probably would have said if not prompted not to. But Feign Death will be in the game. The monks haven't had this skill to date, so it'd be interesting to see all the uses that people try or test out during the May test for their monks, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think monk is looking good, to be honest. I mean, Baz got to show off a little bit of brokenness,
a little bit of Punchy McGee there, a little. Yeah. He looked like he had been, smoking some crack or something. Was all
my
hyped
favorite
up.
Moments are like when he's literally he's soft deathed, and he's just still punching away.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's one of those bugs that kind of should stick around. I wish it
let's
would.
leave that in for a while.
Yeah, leave that in for a while. That's good. It's funny.
But there was like the enchanter, right? I think this might have been confirmed already now that I think about it, but they did confirm that like charisma increases enchanter mez length is one of the bonuses for that stat. I know charisma has other uses as well. I hope they update like what all the stats do. Like there's some like basic info like that that would be really good to know. But yeah, other than that,
notes, yeah, maybe we'll get some patch notes.
That'd be cool. And then of course, to no one's surprise, backstab is a rogue ability. It is in the game. If you're watching Co's stream and wondering.
I was gonna say Co didn't know, but it is in. It is
a thing.
Yeah. That's funny.
That's about it, though.
Yeah, so some good stuff to look forward to in the May pre-alpha test session. The bad news about the pre-alpha test session, this is in the notes, I'm going to say it anyway, is that it happens to be on the same weekend as the new Zelda game. Yeah, as everything. There's other things going on too. We were talking about this in our guild Discord today, right? How many of us have other things going on, gaming-related things, not like boring real-life things, like actual fun things?
Well, Mother's Day. Although I guess you could say that the test is probably going to be over. In time to engage with your parental figure.
I mean, Mother's Day, fine, I guess. If you have to,
But no, seriously, like I'm freaking out because so there's Diablo 4 is having another. I don't care that we're off topic here because this is a big deal. This is going to come up more and more as time goes on. Not saying they need to align their pre-alpha test sessions with other games or anything, but Diablo
I disagree, 4,
sir. Like huge session that they kind of announced not even that long ago, and so a lot of people are probably going to be playing Diablo 4, if only to hit level 20 and get the thing you get for participating in the beta. They actually incentivize you to. They're calling it's like a huge stress test is the whole point of it. Anyway, so there's that. Then there was we already talked about Mother's Day pre-alpha test.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom,
which I've said before on the show that my wife and I have taken the whole week off to play that game together, and the weekend included, which it comes out, and I'm
you just have to commit.
I gotta commit, man. Yeah. I don't know. So I might not be around for this May pre-alpha test. I don't know. It might be tricky to I might have to pull some late
It's
nights.
tough,
or something.
man. It's tough, especially because I feel really incentivized to like no life this one.
But you say that every time. You feel that way every time.
Hey, I'm sleeping more and more each time.
1 hour more. 1 hour more. Okay, that's fair.
Don't look at my calendar.
Anyway,
but yeah, it's going to be a really crazy weekend, basically.
Yeah. An abundance of good things. So I mean, that's a good problem to have, I guess. Okay, so the newsletter of yeah, let's move on to the roadmap, and let's check out what's been updated on the roadmap to alpha this month. They did a really cool change in the classes in combat, and I know that I saw some discussion about this. So they added positional logic to the NPCs to allow them to move more intelligently if a player is using objects to exploit line of sight. This update also allows a group of NPCs to spread out naturally around their target instead of stacking up in one spot. That's a pretty cool change, right? Like that's a pretty cool, that's noticeable. You'll notice it.
Dude, I am I'm like ready to fight anyone that likes their mobs to 10 stack inside of each other. Like,
it's tough as an enchanter too. You can't especially on,
so many problems with that.
To tap target between them and to try and get to the right one and figure out which one's mez and which one's not. This is a huge change that makes the game just so much better.
And it's just like aesthetically too.
Yeah.
It makes it look more, I don't know, just pleasing. Like things make sense, right? When mobs aren't literally inside of each other.
It doesn't look like a computer simulation, it brings it into the reality physics world.
Isn't this like, I wanted to throw this out there because this was totally like a left field thing. I swear this has all of the markings of Kyle's weekend kind of a thing.
I believe you might have hit the nail on the head there.
VR can confirm or deny that's the case, but this was just such a nice surprise. I feel like the programming team lately, now that they're like freed up more from we've talked about this, but they're freed up more, and it's just they're just hitting things, just boom, 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 just probably stuff that's been on the list for years, right? Just knocking it out. I love it.
Yeah. So another point under the classes in combat on the roadmap that they got done was improve the spell resistance system to make the resistance debuffs more impactful when fighting higher level NPCs. So thank God.
Awesome. As a debuffing shaman.
And even as a cleric, or as an enchanter rather, lowering the mob's resistance or lowering their intelligence, doing the debuffs on them that your spells can do. It's a big part of your kit. It's a big part of what you do. So a lot of classes going to benefit from that. And lastly, they said they rebalanced the resting mechanic with the rate of health and mana regeneration while resting. So probably, again, something work in progress. It's going to get changed a lot, I'd imagine.
We'll see how this goes. If people watch the streams, I'm curious if they thought the resting was, too fast, too slow.
It's a good question. I remember I had some chat in my stream that people were like, is this Project 99? Because all I see is sitting around resting, and I'm like when we were at the Spirit Ruins, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I barely had time to sit at all. Yeah, I was like flying. I'm like, holy cow. I think that's a perception thing where, maybe a lot of more modern gamers are so the intensity has to be so fast for them to to feel like something's happening.
Plus there's like that kind of time dilation that comes from like you're watching a stream and you perceive it to be like, man, he's been sitting here for like 3 minutes, and when it's actually been like 20 seconds.
Like literally, I was just trying to keep my mana above level, right above board, to be able to throw a mez on when I needed to sit down. So didn't feel fast to me. But the next one on the roadmap is the networking. Big note here. They said their persistence architecture optimizations were a complete success. They had their first crashless 24-hour test with approximately 350 players in the same zone. So we talked about that quite a bit. And I actually had a lot of people ask me that question as well, because when we went out on our stream, we saw how busy the zone was, right? And people were asking all over the place. I think you actually fielded the question during the stream, like how many players are in the test right now, or did VR say? And so they're giving us a number, right?
Yeah, this is really handy because now that they say this, I misquoted because, we've had tests and they've publicly said this, so I could say it, that with over 500 people.
Right.
And it goes to show even that's still a lot of people in one zone, right? But it wasn't even the capacity, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a huge W, as the kids say. No crashes, smooth. Are you trying to skip the technical note here? I just noticed that.
No, I'm not skipping anything. Go for it. What did I miss?
Or sorry, this kind of goes along with lack of preparation, but there was a note about the performance stuff.
Oh yeah, I didn't include that. Go for it.
So they added the first pass, they say, of batched render groups, which you don't need to know what that means, really. But you do need to know that it legitimately did increase everybody's frames per second by 15 to 20 as a first pass. And they said literally the next pass is underway and they expect even more of a FPS boost, which just goes, again, the programming team, I cannot value them enough. It's incredible. And as they said, and the reason I want to bring this up, other than just to talk slightly technical stuff, is that their goal is to make these passes of optimizations where we increase FPS and then we add visual fidelity and then we increase FPS and then add visual until they find that perfect balance where the game runs really well and looks about where their target is. And so it's fun to see that play out here, and especially so effectively.
One of the things that you'll notice if you watch my stream from our pre-alpha test when we got to play is you'll see the frame rates are generally good the whole time. There are places where it dips pretty hard, where it dipped down to 15 to 20-ish. Some of my chat noticed it when we were playing and called it out and said, "Oh, that area." There was one area right where, remember, that rare spawn, the wolf we looked for is there?
Yeah.
That place, my frames dipped hard in that spot. And there were a couple other places where the same thing happened. So I haven't really had a chance to even mention that or talk about that anywhere, but you can see it on stream. I have my FPS up in the left-hand corner and you can actually see it happening, and you can tell just by the way that game's running. So
right.
It is interesting because they're doing these performance upgrades, these optimizations, and you're sort of seeing some places in the game, it's generally good across the board, but there are some places still where, you get these spikes of,
as expected. There's still obviously room to grow, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I wish I would have remembered to put my FPS on screen, because mine, I feel was crazy smooth. The whole time I was floored by how well it was running.
And everybody knows you are not uncritical when it comes. You demand high standards when it comes to performance. So if Desrin is saying that it was smooth and he was very impressed, you can take that to the bank.
Not even to mention, I have a processor that is from 2016. It is oh my gosh, that is almost 9 years old.
Yeah. And mine's brand new.
Oh my God.
So for mine to have, areas where it dipped down that low, clearly it's a game thing.
It's obviously not a hardware thing. So it's stuff they can fix. That's kind of how I interpret it. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And somebody actually asked me for my machine, my specs in the chat, in the comments on my video, and I actually put it in there. So if you want to know the specs on my machine, go to my stream video and just look at the comments. I can't remember. I think Ronnie Anderson is the name of the person who left the comment, and then I replied to it with my specs. So that might be helpful. In terms of gathering and crafting on the roadmap, they said testing has begun on woodworking, and wood is able to be gathered from trees by chopping them down. The first pass of metal and wooden weapon crafting has been implemented, and work to implement the first pass of armor crafting is underway. So rejoice.
Oh,
rejoice.
Man. A full crafting loop in the next PA, maybe?
Yeah.
That's going to be a game changer, right?
Dude. I love that they're making so much progress with the crafting, and they even put a little thing on Twitter, which I really thought was cool, and I included in our notes here because it was easy to miss if you didn't see it. Just a little video of I think it was Minus creating some bear chops by combining meat and fruit. Very simple, but a good example of how the cooking in the game works. And I have a video in the works, I should say, of my bag of food, because you and I talked about it on the stream.
I had my inventory open a few times, and I was like, oh man, I had a lot of food in there.
Did you go through and like leave the tooltip up for each one so people could see what they are?
I should have. I was mousing over a few things, but you know, I'm not a pro streamer. Like I'm constantly distracted. So
okay, well, what you need to do is you need to send me what you have, or maybe I'll just go into your video and I'll clip those parts, because I'm going to do a video showing all the food that we had crafted in the game. Yeah, so this was a cool little thing that they put on Twitter showing the cooking system, and I really liked it. So you know, the game is looking good for crafting, and on a side note, their social media game is definitely amped up lately. They're doing 100%. Lots of these little things, right, which are pretty cool. So
yeah, this video is such a great example of stuff I hope they continue to put out, because this is like tangible, right?
Yeah,
like you're following Pantheon and you're seeing them post videos about talking about, you know, whatever, but then just seeing like little digestible clips of like people playing the game is huge.
I think that's Ruben, right? I think he's their social media guy.
Yeah, Fire.
Yeah, Fire, aka Fire. He is Fire. The next roadmap item, and this is under the NPC, it's sort of combined all three of them. I put NPC models, animations, and assets. I also called it the Bats and Bears update, because that's basically what they're talking about here. So a couple updates on the Ogrim, that is the bear type creature. It says Ogrim, the final texturing and engine integration is complete. They have the Ogrim fully rigged up. Combat and non-combat idle breaks, locomotion, transitions, attack, death, and getting hurt animations have been completed. And the bat side of things, the gas bat final texturing has begun. The gas bat is also fully rigged with all of the same things that I just mentioned for the bear. So yeah, exciting. Bears and bats.
I am so excited to see some custom in-house like creatures, because we've had these. I'm pretty sure these are in-house like little gray box, you know, boys running around, which at least they're obviously placeholder, right? But having actual like, this is the game. This is like Visionary Realms, you know, custom stuff is gonna be so exciting, because I mean we have a few humanoids, right? But like creatures.
Humans are boring. We don't care about humans.
Humans are boring, man. Like
we want creatures.
Not the race, not the in-game race, you know, like, but I just mean we need some stuff that's like signature Pantheon, right? Yeah, that's why this is a big deal to me.
Yeah, I agree. They also talked about some concept art that they've completed, which is cool. We won't go through all of them, but the gas bat, there's some stuff for different variations on the gas bat and the Ogrim. The Celis Creeper, which you'll remember from Devair. So that was obviously a stock asset. They're doing some custom artwork for that. And another one called the Barbed Malefarion, which they say is a bee-like creature native to Terminus. So
I want to see what this looks like. I wonder if they'll put out the concept art for this.
I hope so. I'm sure they will. That seems like something they will do.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, I did think it was interesting to note that they actually made a point to post that they are still working on Wild's End as far as the environmental side of things, which I find curious.
Explain. Why do you find that curious?
Well, I mean, we've had a pretty big push for Avendir's Pass, right? And obviously on the, I don't want to say back burner, but it kind of seems like Wild's End has been, maybe the side project to say the least. I mean, we did see like huge dungeon and stuff, so it's not a side project, but just because it's not connected to the gameplay space that we've been used to, I kind of hope we see more updates on it. And I just wonder, like, are they done with Avendir's Pass? Or not done, but like, have we seen enough progress that they don't want to post that in the notes? Because They did still do the thing. I'm going to keep talking about this until they change it, Theric, because I had my soapbox on the last our last rewind, but they're still putting the updated tag on stuff that hasn't changed. And VR, could you not do that, please? Thank you. Signed, Desrin.
So the last thing from the newsletter to note is that it sounds like we'll be seeing some new streamers getting a chance to show off the May pre-alpha testing session. VR noted that they were meeting that this past week to select some streamers for the next test. Very good news. It's awesome. Can't wait to see some fresh perspectives on Terminus. So if you want to do that, remember you have to apply to their content creator program. The link is on their website. It's easy to find. Just go there and do that. But I can't wait to hear who we're going to get to see, show off how they play, Pantheon, how they test, right? Different perspectives. Always a good thing.
It's a new age, man. It's a new age.
Yeah, it is a new age. That's 100% right. I was thinking about that as I was writing it. I'm like, man, this is so different from the way it used to be, right? But
totally, in a very good way.
It's an open world in so many ways. The pre-alpha recap was something that you mentioned earlier, and I wanted to sort of combine these two pieces because you all know, Desrin, we had an epic time streaming the April session with our friends Nathan Napalm, with Drac and Basgrim and Co Carnage. If you haven't checked out our videos, what the heck are you doing? Go watch them, go check it out. I did a breakdown of the Enchanter spells in a separate video. Des did a video showcasing his top moments from the stream. Drac's done some shorts, so you got to check those out. VR, I like the way they put it in the newsletter. They said they saw us smack around some mobs and do some exploring, all things worth checking out if you'd like a peek into what testing looks like in pre-alpha. So that was pretty well said. I thought that's a good encapsulation of what we did. I want to say thank you again, obviously, so much to VR for the opportunity to do that stream. It was a total blast, and we haven't stopped talking about it since, right, Des?
And we probably won't for a while. So, apologies in advance. But yeah, thanks so much, VR. I really hope we could do it again someday.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about the next streamers that show off and talk about what they did, because it's just so much fun to do. Mm-hmm. We debated doing a testing reflection segment this week, but honestly, I feel like we just actually talked about a lot of it as we went through it anyway. We'd be repeating ourselves. We decided not to do that. If you want to discuss, that kind of stuff with us, you can jump into our Discord, and we have conversations going on in there all the time about the game, obviously. One of the other things, a couple of the things from the recap that VR gave us, they put in some pretty cool screenshots. One of them being the players taking on the fierce yet lovable Fuzz Ruckus during the tail end of one of the tests. And a Fuzz Ruckus again. They said it may have taken a solid 35 plus minutes for our mighty warriors to take this guy down, but in the end, they were victorious. So I love that. I love that picture. And
it's a great screenshot, I will admit. As far as action screenshots go, it's pretty good. And I will kind of throw back to, if you guys remember, they had a similar screenshot that I believe VR took way back when they just started PA testing again, basically after HTRP and all that stuff. Similar thing, a bunch of players tackling Fuzz Ruckus. But look at the difference.
He looks way different. Yeah.
Yep. Everything looks different. Not even to say the game looks so much better or anything, but progress, man.
Well, and it goes to show, and I know you've sort of hoped that Fuzz Ruckus, doesn't stay in the main game at the end of the day at launch, but I've been advocating for Fuzz Ruckus because I like him, and I know he's not a custom asset, but I like that
I like the idea of him.
They're obviously, they're decorating him, so why would they improve him if they're not planning on keeping him?
That's true. If they customized it enough, I'll be happy. Dude,
Fuzz Ruckus. I want to do some lore.
But also he's right there. The folks of Avelia, they cannot be just having this Fuzz Ruckus just chilling there. Although I guess they tolerate the, several encampments. Oh, nah.
They put up with a lot, all right? I mean, maybe Fuzz Ruckus keeps the other bad stuff away. Maybe he just he's our protector. So yeah, the other thing that VR noted in the alpha recap was that they logged some great stats about spawn rates and time to kill. And I think we would certainly agree with this, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you, Des? Oh, right.
Yes.
NDA strikes again.
Yeah.
So, we'll leave it there.
Good time to move on.
Good time to move in. Anything else you want to add on the VR news side of things, Des, before we move on?
I'm going to use the E word. I'm excited. Like,
always excited.
I'm so pumped just to be able to recap all this stuff on the rewind. It feels significant. It's meaty. Like, stuff is happening, and I can't wait to come back 2 weeks from now. And well, it's going to be a little different, I guess, because that's a testing weekend and we have to record before testing. But
I know
the chunk after that, I'm sure will be yet another very involved rewind. So it's just really fun. It's a really fun place to be in right now.
It is, absolutely. So that's a ton of news. Let's get on to our Pantheon Plus notes for the week coming up, May 1st through May 7th. We got a busy schedule, busy calendar again. So Monday, the Midnight Crew, they had a fun stream this past week playing Among Us, where they were deciding on what they wanted to do. And it looks like they're going to play Embers Adrift coming up on this Monday. Yeah, so that's the midnight Eastern on our Twitch channel with Drac and his pals. I love that they're going back to Embers. That's exciting.
A lot of people are. Well,
a lot of people are going back to Embers. A decent amount of
people are, because they're updating the game.
More content, and they're very active with the community. Honestly, if you want a really company that's very in touch with their community, I think that Stormhaven Studios is very much that company. Tuesday nights, playing some Lotro, of course, the 101 and the 201 groups, both doing Lotro leveling. We are trying to get to level 54, I want to say, if I remember correctly. So that's Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on our Twitch channel, and Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel with the two separate groups. Friday, our friend Redbeard Flynn has a video going up talking about doing an EQ beginner's guide. So that'll be interesting. Good stuff there. Saturday, I want to give a special shout out to our friends Sarah and Essen. They are doing some streaming on their Twitch channel. So that's new. They're going to be playing Divinity 2. So that is a really well-regarded game, very good co-op RPG, sort of I'd say one of the best ones to come out in a long time, and something that I will be definitely watching and seeing the shenanigans that those two get up to. I love their back and forth. You've seen them here on Couples Conversations on the channel and on the 201 and the 101 groups. So if you like mayhem and back and forth, you should definitely check that out. So that'll be on Sarah's Twitch channel. That's linked in the description. Make sure you go check that out. And Sunday, we are back for another Quests and Coffee, or Coffee and Quests, as Drac here has on the graphic, but it's actually called Quests and Coffee. And so that's noon Eastern, right at the rewind slot on next Sunday to keep your rewind schedule filled for you. We are having a great time. We are making serious progress in that game on the main campaign. All kinds of intrigue. Fate has discovered the supposed crown of the Magister and actually turned it into the council, which we didn't think she would do, but she's been able to separate herself from it. It's not the precious that we thought it was. So that's fun. Definitely come check us out. Hang out with us on Sunday. Then the last couple things I want to mention is that the draft. We had the Pantheon Plus Dungeon Group draft. This is just last night, so this is fresh in our minds from me and Desrin. And if you haven't watched it, you didn't catch it live, go watch it. It's going to be posted on YouTube.
It'll be one of the best, even if you weren't there live. I'm sure it's going to deliver a lot of fun.
I think you had a good time. Your group was pretty solid. I liked your group, although Sparrow's group was declared the winner by the Twitch chat.
That's a pity vote if I've ever seen one. People saw her get stuck with Gibo, and they're like, you know what?
Yeah, I feel maybe that might be the case, because Gibo was definitely a moment that she may live to regret once that dungeon group gets into action. But I think in our Discord, Drax said it was a random Rob juggler moment that random Rob would be proud of. I liked that. So Anyway, lots of fun. Go watch it. Go check it out. Have some laughs with us. And that is it for this week's Pantheon News and Notes.
The Pantheon community is full of cool projects, new people, and things that are just worth sharing. What's this over here? Look at that. So let's see what we can find in this week's Community Spotlight. Okay, Theric, it's finally here.
Yay!
Content is flowing through the pipes of the Pantheon community. Finally. It only took a 6-part multi-stream, several developer videos, but it's happening.
And your constant nagging. Your
my
constant nagging did it.
You can't undervalue the constant nagging.
That's right.
What do we got? So we've got a return of a few content creators, which is always very, very fun. They haven't really put out much Pantheon content in at least in a while. First one up is Ryve Genesis, who released Pantheon Rise of the Fallen top 5 reasons to be interested. That's on his YouTube. Again, it's great to see kind of a quick game breakdown for his followers.
It's a good video. I watched it. I enjoyed it. I've followed his videos for a while. He does a lot of Ashes of Creation stuff, and nice to see him throw in a Pantheon video. His video sort of production has gotten better and better.
Really has, yeah.
Good stuff.
And this is like insanely brief too, which again, we have a habit of being long form.
Just a little.
But I think it was great. So awesome. Next up on the return is Tango Hotel. And this is a twofer here. Tango Hotel comes back, double Catchup on the streams here. So this is covering, streams and I think a bit of other info from like the last newsletter. But the first one's Tango Talks, Pantheon Rise of the Fallen live stream Catchup. And then the second one is Pantheon Rise of the Fallen April, Parting the Veil. So go check those out. One cool thing about him is he adds plenty of like his own thoughts and experiences in there as well. And some fun little editing bits as well that I thought was a nice touch.
And he's really animated, and he's really excited, and he's got like a real energy to him. I like his videos a lot. I haven't watched either of these ones yet. I'm going to do that later. Yeah,
totally. And then switching gears a little bit, we've got 2 new entries from Benonai's series. And this is Amensol's Shadow, the Shadow of the Sun. So part 3 and 4 are now up on his YouTube channel. And also, a little aside here, but Benonai wanted me to kind of give a little bit of a call to action to our listeners. He's looking for anyone that might be interested in some voice acting for his series. He's looking for people to hop on board for more voices for an eventual audiobook version, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I know. I've volunteered for it, and I've seen some other people have as well. Seems there's a lot of interest in doing this, and I think it's such a great idea for a community project.
100%. And he says, he's organizing it all, so it'll just be, delivering your lines. As he says, all you need is a microphone and an email. So definitely get in contact with him if you're interested, and see about doing a little bit of fun voice acting for a community project. That's awesome. Yeah.
Jump into our Discord. It's probably the best way to get in touch with Benonai, and
probably
he's easy peasy. So yeah.
And on that fan fiction note, we've also got Fate, who's got 2 new entries in her fan fiction series. It's up on Pantheon.plus. So go check out Chapter 4, Ships and Crystals, and Chapter 5, Sewers and Masks.
Yeah, and stay tuned for some more fan fiction from Fate coming up later in the show. So yeah, if you want to get the lead up to those 2 chapters, stick around.
Oh, I forgot you were reading. That's so perfect. You
betcha.
All right. And as you guys, as we've talked about a ton, right? But Pantheon Plus Group Dungeon Draft. Yes, it was a great time. But the reason it's in this section, I wanted to spotlight the commercials.
Yes.
I want to make sure to link those in the description for you guys to check out directly. And unfortunately, not all of them have been posted individually yet. But besides looking at our VOD for the whole thing, but you can check out the individual versions, at least the ones that I've found so far, in the description. So I've got Orin and Kylaris, Basgrim, Man of Rohan, and Mr. Coddleshire's entries so far. And hopefully, more people post theirs, because we had some doozies. It was
as the draft was going on and we were going through each round, and there was a commercial at the end of each round. Honestly, I found myself like looking forward to the end of the round just to get to the next commercial. So I wasn't hurrying or anything like that. I wasn't trying to rush anybody, but I was like, it was in my mind. I'm like, it was like that carrot on the stick. I just want to get to the next commercial. They're so fun.
As we've said 1,000 times, plenty of people watch the Super Bowl just for the commercials, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's that. And then again, already mentioned the community PA session stream, which was obviously very huge for everyone here. And that was all separate streaming: Drac, Theric, Nathan, Napalm, Basgrim, Co-Carnage, and myself. 6 different parts. So just because it's a little extra effort to go looking for all of those VODs, for your viewing pleasure, I have organized them into a list in the video description as well, in case I'm sure some of our listeners do find themselves to have dwellings that are subterranean. So
are you saying our listeners live in caves underground? Is that what you're saying?
Some people can live under a rock. It's true.
Living under a rock. I see. Okay.
But yeah, just in case you missed those and want an easy way to get them, I just decided to throw those together for you guys. But on that note, a few folks made highlight reels and kind of like videos of different kinds, kind of cutting their gameplay and perspective into one shorter thing. And so as of this writing, we've got Theric, who did one for the Enchanter, Basgrims, and myself doing a shaman / whatever was fun.
My favorite moments.
Yeah.
Things that I liked.
Couldn't decide, what.
I liked your little titles. It's like, There May Be Dragons was one. I'm trying to remember the other one. Yeah. It's like the part where you scared me with the dire alert. I'm like not surprised that you chose that one, because I felt like you set that up and I actually fell right into the trap that you wanted me to. Because I had no idea. So wonderfully. Like, it wasn't set up or anything. Like, you didn't tell me about that at all. I just happened to be like, oh, we should be careful here. There's a guy down there we need to be careful about.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was very fun. So I had a bit of creative liberty with my cuts, yeah. But those are going to be down below as well. Again, they're shorter. So if you can't sit through like 6 hour and 45-minute streams, which is understandable for the normal person, those exist, and hopefully more to come. And then lastly, so this is total other way of going, but I want to shout out Baz's recent watch party. So this was the Parting the Veil watch party. There's 2 separate things here. So there's the full VOD, and then there is a specific cut of that VOD because of a kind of conversation with Baz's chat, kind of addressing a dude that had legitimate complaints, according to them. But yeah, basically this guy came into Baz's watch party and said, something we see all the time. Yeah, everybody knows Pantheon's vaporware. It's never coming out, and if it does, it's going to be hot garbage. Now, instead of like just straight banning this guy, Baz decided to turn this into a full conversation about stuff, and it was pretty dang good. Baz's viewpoints, kind of the project, is just ridiculously unique, and while it's unpredictable, has ups and downs, there probably won't ever be a story like this again. I thought that was very I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's a good point, and I agree with him. It's a very unique story. He's the absolute authority on the story of VR and Pantheon's development. So if anybody's going to put this out there, he's the one to do it and when to answer it.
Yeah. And he really did try to address it in a very the thoughtful manner, because really the guy came into the chat head swinging, right? The same 3 things we see all the time. Game's been in development for however many years. Looks like a game from 25 years ago. That was actually something he said too. And I this one cracks me up because I'm 25 years, and I'm we're talking
But that's like PS1 era. Is that
Ultima.
even before PS1 era?
Like
I saw somebody in our stream said this looks like a PS1 game, and I was like,
man, people have bad memories.
I don't think you remember what PS1 games look like.
Obviously, like the point is like the game doesn't look like AAA what people expect. But then the other one that I'm starting to see a lot is that the VR is like stringing people along for money, which is hilarious because I think everybody knows that they don't make a lot of money. But anyway, so it's really nothing new, but the whole time he's saying like, I'm not trolling and whatever, and chat engages with them, and it could have gotten really ugly, but I as much as it kind of felt like Baz was kind of having a conversation with a wall, I thought it was really great how this developed, taking it dead on and addressing the actual like complaints directly but kindly. And I know a lot of you guys that listen are, for the most part already Pantheon fans, right? We are a fairly long Pantheon podcast. Like I wouldn't expect people that are, don't care about Pantheon to really, listen.
I appreciate that people are generally stay away from our stuff to, do this kind of trolling. That's why I'm surprised, like that's the whole thing that gets me about this is that like, why are you there? Like, what do you gain from doing this? I don't understand. If you don't like it or you don't like Pantheon, you don't believe them, you think they're scammers, whatever you think, fine. But like, why are you here then? What's the point? You're not going to convince anybody. Like, you're not going to, and it goes kind of both ways because, and I'm not criticizing Basgrim here, but I feel like if you haven't convinced people by now, there's very little more you can do. Like he's all about bringing, his analogy he uses is like a candle, right? He brings light to the darkness. And I feel like there's a small percentage of people that you can convince with facts, but like 90% of people, no matter what you say, they're not going to change their opinion. And so I kind of wonder about the point of doing that.
Something to be said for a person that wants to spend, because they stuck around in the stream, like the person that really started all this, they stuck around for a long time, just throwing stuff, and Basgrim just kind of like boom, like kind of hitting it, bringing up stuff that they have said. I mean, he stuck around for a long time. I wouldn't say he was converted or anything like that, right? but so the dynamic of this is really interesting. This is why I kind of wanted to bring it up, was like, I know our fans of Pantheon, and I would say like any fans, right? We get a little defensive, when something that we care about is getting attacked. I mean, in this case, blatantly attacked. But for whatever reason, like Pantheon fans have like, I think a little bit more reputation for that. And so the way that he approached this is, I think at least something that I would model a little bit, because obviously the chat that was talking to this guy was just firing him up more, right? And so out of all this though, because I don't want to linger on this too much, like I want to pull a good thing out of this whole deal, because I did see in the chat some reasonably critical folks as well, folks that were just kind of being honest. They're like, hey, I'm concerned there's not much of a market for this game, or, Right.
Yeah. And those are the comments. Like, so since our streams got posted, our comments, there's lots of those comments. And that's the kind of content we do that does attract some of those comments. Right. I'm always willing to respond to a reasonable comment that has some, give me what you think and tell me why you think that, and give me some facts to support it. Right. If you just come in and say Vaporware scammers done, like, that doesn't do anything. That's just pointless. You're wasting your time, and like, I'm not taking my time to respond to you at all, because there's nothing to say to that.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how I tend to approach things now, because any moment I spend on that stuff trying reason is wasted, right? And so I'm like, well, hey, at least if I just leave it, they've wasted more time than I have.
Yeah, so, that's right. That's what I think too.
But yeah, so that's my takeaway though. It's like super stereotypically frustrated, kind of unreasonable person came into the stream, but triggered a pretty healthy and reasonable conversation. And of course, another good side of this is that Baz had a great opportunity to dispel some pretty common myths and misconceptions, even amongst like diehard Pantheon fans, like the whole Pantheon is fully funded thing. That a lot of followers like kind of say that over. And anyway, it's really good. I actually got pretty engrossed in the whole thing, so I wanted to point it out and link it alongside the full VOD.
I don't think I'll watch it or I'll listen to it, but I understand why. I understand what he's trying to do, and I respect Bowser for what he's trying to do there. If it works, great. I'm happy to be wrong if you're able to convince people and sort of dispel some of that stuff. And it's get all the kudos in the world from me. It's
not like you do this every time someone comes into your chat, right? Spend half an hour.
Picked a battle, and he decided to pick a battle and fight
and use it as an example. I think that works.
Sure.
In this
Makes
case. But dude, that was the biggest community spotlight I think we've ever had. It might turn a little bit, the discussion, I guess, but dude, I can't wait to see what the future holds. And if you guys like any of the stuff that I listed here, again, links in the description. I try to make it super easy for you guys to find content from the community and support it. And thanks all the content creators. If you guys are watching or listening to this, super appreciate you guys. Can't wait to see what you come up with next. But that is going to be it for this week's Community Spotlight.
And now, story time from our fans of fiction. All right, as promised, we are heading back into the world of fan fiction in this episode, returning to the tale of Tyrion Growfinder by Fate. So this is chapter 2, and if you want to hear chapter 1, it's in 2 parts in episodes 135 and 136 of the Rewind. So what we're doing now is part 1 of chapter 2. It's called Silver and Riddles, and it's quite a good story, a lot of dialogue, and so you'll hear me doing my best to voice the characters, but that's always fun. I enjoy doing this a whole heck of a lot, and I hope you do too. So let's hear from Fate and the story of Tyrion Growfinder. A feeling of defeat hangs over me the next morning, despite the 3 rabbits slung over my shoulder as I wander in through the front door. I never found another entrance into the grove. When I tried to climb a tree, I discovered a dense barrier of old undergrowth, extending deep into the darkness. I decided to come back later, but knew I wouldn't find anything. Taryn is already up and finishing breakfast, even though the silver rays of morning are only now just filtering in through the window. His glower meets my grin, lifting my spirits a bit. "Good morning, brother," I say as I step over and hang the rabbits on a hook in the kitchen. Soreen stomps down from the loft, yawning. "Hello, Tyrion," she flops down at the table. Our young apprentice does not appreciate the hours my brother keeps. "Did you find the bear?" "Bear?" Taryn asks. "Wait, you knew it was a bear? You told me it was a wraith, in a cave." "You should know better by now," Taryn says. Soreen nods. "You really should." "Well, I did doubt it was actually a wraith, and more of an excuse to get me away from the house so you and my brother—" "Hey!" Taryn stops me from going any further, but Soreen manages to look both guilty and pleased with herself at the same time. Taryn glances at her, then clears his throat. "Did you have to go chasing bears?" "Wraiths. 2 nights in a day, though. We have work piling up." "Work?" I sit down at the table next to Soreen and grab some bread and jam. She avoids making eye contact by taking a long drink of tea. "You must be the only halfling in the inn to think about work after a relaxing night." "We got another shipment in from Sorhireth," Taryn says, dodging my bait. "Oh, so by work you meant fixing up the garbage they send us?" Taryn and Soreen look at each other. "Actually," Soreen says, "it's from Weed Whips." I pause in the middle of taking a bite. "Weed Whips? Sent us some stuff to fix? That's unusual." "Not quite," Taryn says, collecting a few coals from the kitchen fireplace to bring to the smithy. "They want you, specifically you, to engrave them. They've sent us 20 gold as a down payment and say they'll send us platinum upon completion." "A platinum? How much work did they send us?" "Again, not us, you. And it's a single tea set. but it has Latar's Masterwork seal on the bottom. I stare at Terran in silence. So don't mess it up or we might owe them a few platinum. Terran walks away. Terran walks out to stoke the forge, and I pull out the coin the elf gave me, rolling it across my knuckles. Want to hear a riddle? Serene asks. I nod. What can be given, taken, and lost, but never held? Life, I say after a moment. That's a bit darker than your normal riddles. It's probably that coin of yours. It's giving me the creeps. I would throw it out if I were you. Have you seen this before? An elf gave it to me yesterday. No, but it doesn't look like anything good. I better get to work before Terran gets mad. I nod, not looking at her or the coin. After a moment, I sigh and get up from my uneaten breakfast and head to my workshop. A beautiful tea set sat waiting for me, including a shining silver tray polished like a mirror. Terran has his own cheeky side, and he had placed everything as if ready to serve. Weed Whips usually adds ornate twists, lifelike leaves and vines. They forego etching, my specialty, in favor of forged ornamentation. This tea set is simple, but gorgeous with delicate curves and a flawless polish. I'm quite certain a master-crafted plain tea set from Weed Whips would actually be more valuable for its rarity when set amongst their over-decorated silver and gold wares that made them famous across Kingsreach. I separate everything out and group them together. Saucers, teacups, cream pitcher, sugar bowl, serving tray, and teapot. Something very important was missing, however, so I walk over to the forge and pop my head in. Terran, I say, where's the brief? What do they want on these things? Terran doesn't look away from the bar of silver he's heating up. No brief, he says. They just said to have you decorate it and gave no further instructions. What? Serene glances at me from the bellows and giggles. They sent us masterwork silver, I say, and 20 gold with no expectation or ideas about how the work should turn out? Terran removes the silver bar and taps the darkly glowing metal with his small hammer, listening to the sound it makes. He flips the bar over and returns it to the bed of coals. As far as I can tell, yes. That doesn't concern you? Terran sighs and looks back at me finally. Terran, you're very skilled. Weed Whips is interested in hiring you, and this is their test. They haven't had an engraver in over 20 years. I feel as if soon you will have set yourself on a path and stop crawling through the brush. He turns back to his work. Serene spares me a sympathetic look, but can't stop working from the bellows. I close the door to the forge and sit back down at my workbench. Instead of getting back to work, however, I once again pull out the medallion with its ring of knives on both sides. I set the large coin down on my bench and spin the disc around. I pull out my tools while it spins and lay them out, then focus on the spinning, trying to clear my head. The spinning slows down, my thoughts congeal. The reflection of the lamps off the silver tray catches my eye, and my focus moves from the medallion to the work laid out in front of me. My tools seem to float into my hands, and I start to carve out a design into the silver. And that is the lore you know. So, another show in the books, Des. I know we talked about doing a quarterly review. Remember their goals for the first quarter of 2023? We've been harping on this a couple times now. Just happened to have too much to discuss this week. We haven't forgot. Yeah. We're going to get to it. We'll do it next time. Yeah. Asterisk. But
that's great. Yeah. Maybe that's our task for next time. Did they live up to what they said?
Agreed. I think it's a perfect show, and I think I'd really like to do that. It's just honestly, this week was so crazy with the draft preparation for the draft.
So much happened in the last 2 weeks.
I know, it was so busy. So just not enough hours in the day sometimes. As I mentioned, we have had a lot of comments and feedback from our streams. I want to thank everyone for who leaves a comment, whatever it is you decide to write, that's fine. And whether it's on the Rewind, whether it's on Pantheon Plus U or any of the other video content, we do read them, try to respond to the ones as much as possible. And it's one of the things I actually enjoy doing the most. I sort of come down in the morning, I drink my coffee and I look at the comments and, check it out. I like that sort of interaction. Aww. So Yeah, and just again, to what you were saying, Desmond, like let's just be good to each other out there. It's about a game, right? We're all a family. No matter what your opinion is, we're all a family of gamers. We have one thing, at least one thing in common, if nothing else. We want to play Pantheon. Even the people who think it's Vaporware, that's why they're there. I sort of answered my own question. Why are you here? They want to play Pantheon. They just don't believe it's going to happen anymore. So we have that in common. We want the same thing. So
see you at launch.
Yeah, we'll see you at launch, and then we can all complain about other things.
Right. My class sucks, or monks are too OP, as Ko is very afraid of.
I'm only getting 70 frames per second. I should be getting 75.
Oh man.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's be good to each other out there. Have fun. Have a great couple weeks, and we will see you next time.
See you next time, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Pantheon Plus Rewind. Pantheon Plus is not affiliated with Visionary Realms. Be sure to check out our Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube channels under the name Pantheon Plus. You can follow Theric at Pantheon Theric on Twitter, and Desrin at Desrin Does also on Twitter. And you can stay up to date with all things Pantheon at www.pantheon.plus. Until next time, cheers, and thanks for listening.